Hey, what's up? This is Sully from Godsmack. Strap on those boots, baby, because you are now in the trenches of the war room with the one and only Mistress Carrie right here on the Mistress Carrie podcast.
What's up? This is Joe Rogan, and you're listening to Mistress Carrie.
Her hair so lovely. Pretty eyes.
Hey, this is Brent from Shinedown, and you're listening to Mistress Carrie. Hey, Carrie, go put your bra on, girl.
Hey, this is Steven Tyler, and you be listening to the baddest bitch in Boston, Mistress Carrie.
What's up? This is Aaron from Stain, and you're listening to Mistress Carrie.
Hi, everybody. This is Dave Grohl from the Foo Fighters, and you're listening to the one, the only Mistress Carrie.
Hey, this is David from the band Disturbed, and you're listening to the baddest bitch in Boston, Mistress Carrie.
Hi, Bruce Dickinson here from Iron Maiden. Yes, indeed, Miss Whiplash herself, Mistress Carrie, is here to unchain your brain.
Hi, this is Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. You're listening to Mistress Carrie.
This is Dennis Leary. You are listening to my favorite, Mistress Carrie.
Hey, this is Corey from Stone Sour, and you have the privilege of listening to Mistress Carrie.
Oh, God. Oh, yeah.
Hey, it's Mistress Carrie, reporting for duty from MCHQ on episode 239 of the Mistress Carrie podcast. And before we get to this week's guest, guitarist Sophie Lloyd, I want to remind you about all of the features of MistressCarrie.com. Not only can you find every episode of the Mistress Carrie podcast, but you'll also find every episode of my weekly video show, Cocktails in the War Room. You'll find the links to all of my socials, be able to read my blog, get the list of radio stations that you can hear my show on, send me a message here in the studio, shop in the online Mistress Carrie store, and keep up with all of the rock concerts coming through New England with the concert and events calendar. Just log on to MistressCarrie.com. Guitarist Sophie Lloyd has been touring for the last few years with Machine Gun Kelly, and she is now preparing to headline her first American show at the Whickey A Go Go in Hollywood, coming up on January 16th. Sophie Lloyd made a name for herself playing guitar online, amassing millions of followers and hundreds of millions of views. So I wanted to give you a chance to get to know this up-and-coming guitarist. 2025 is going to be a big year for Sophie Lloyd. You'll find all of her links in the show notes of this episode. So allow me to introduce you to Sophie Lloyd. Sophie Lloyd, happy holidays.
Thank you so much. You too. Thank you so much for having me.
Are you home right now?
I am, yes. I am at home with my cats and dogs all being annoying.
Well, that's perfect that you bring that up right away. We have something on the show we called the Geezer question.
Okay, I love that.
I had Geezer Butler on the show, and he told me that he had 13 cats and 5 dogs. And when I asked him how he and his wife Gloria kept them all straight, he said that they named them all after gangster rappers, and he started listing all of the gangster rappers that they have in the house in the Butler household. And now I have to ask all the artists that come on what they have for pets and what they named them, but I blame Geezer Butler from Black Sabbath. It's not my fault that I asked that question.
I love it. And it's an excellent question. And I think it really establishes who they are as a human being, what pets someone has, you know?
Yes.
If they don't have pets, they're kind of weird, you know?
Yeah,
everyone
I can't
needs
trust
to have
people
something.
that don't have a pet. I think it's weird.
Exactly. If someone doesn't have a little bit of cat fur on them or dog fur, I don't quite trust them.
Yeah, exactly.
But I have 2 cats. I have a ragdoll and a Siberian, and called Luna and Jax. And then we recently just adopted a dog called Kobe, he's kind of like a mix of a bunch of stuff, but he's a cross between a Bernese Mountain Dog, a Beagle, and a Dog to Bordeaux. So a super weird mix, but he's a rescue, and he's so cute. I love him so much. So yeah, he's the newest member of our family.
I love that.
He's gorgeous, honestly. And surprisingly, they actually get on quite well. I wasn't sure how the cats and dogs would get on, but actually, they kind of love each other.
Well, I love the decorations for the holidays. You have a beautiful tree.
Thank you. Yes, we're feeling pretty festive over here, getting all the presents wrapped up today.
Is that a piece of pizza I see hanging off your Christmas tree right there?
Yes, we have a piece of pizza. We have a dinosaur. We have a whiskey bottle. All the essentials, you know?
Yeah. I've been collecting ornaments every time I go on a trip or whatever. I bring an ornament back. And so my tree is kind of the same way. Matter of fact, I think I have a piece of pizza hanging on mine. So there you go.
Good. I'm the same. I love collecting ornaments. We do it every year. It's like a tradition where you have to go out and every year pick out an ornament. And we've done that since we were like obviously we didn't pick them out, our parents did, but when we were like babies, we've still got ones we had from when we were babies and stuff. And like every year we've got our different ones. It's very sweet.
What does the holiday season taste and smell like for you? Because for me, so much of the holiday experience is the food and the smells. So what are the things that you eat, drink, whatever, that you only get around the holiday season?
That's a good question, because I feel like in the UK, you know, what you usually have for Sunday dinner is like, you know, the turkey, you have like a big kind of roast dinner. We kind of have that every Sunday anyway. Like, so it's not really necessarily like a super special meal. The difference, I guess, is like the people. It's always a lot bigger. And we never have turkey because turkey as a meat generally kind of sucks. I think we can all agree. It's kind of the worst meat. So we don't have it any other time of year. But I'd say that's always a big thing. And then just like the best thing is when it's cold in the evening and like you just get all like the scraps off people's plates and like it's called bubble and squeak. I don't know whether you have that.
No.
Where they like mix it up and then you put like a fried egg on top. That's really good for like the evening or like the next day or something.
That sounds perfect for a hangover.
It is. Oh my God. It's the perfect hangover cure. Like that's why it's so good for like Boxing Day food, because everyone is a little, you know, sore on Boxing Day. But yeah, that, and I'd say I eat so much chocolate around around Christmas as well, like honestly a really unhealthy amount. And I'm bad at the moment because I just got a personal trainer, so I'm starting to log on my food, which I've never done before, and I'm strategically leaving off like the giant pack of chocolate buttons I have, like the full size, pretty much life size Santa chocolate I have. Like I just can't stop. It's everywhere.
It's a really bad time of year to start a food journal. It's like, it's the reason why New Year's resolutions exist, because you want to start like New Year's Day fresh.
Exactly. Yeah. I keep saying like, don't look at today. Don't look at, and I've said that every single day so far. Because also you're always going out with like your family, like you're going like out for dinner and stuff, and it's hard to track. So we're not doing very well in that department, but hey, it's Christmas, you know.
And of course there is the traditional, like the movies, and so many of those for us are British movies.
Yeah, that's true, I guess.
So what are the movies that like are the tradition that you like? Love Actually is something my sister and I watch every year, which is a British film.
Yeah.
And then we watch Die Hard, which is probably the most American Christmas movie that has ever been.
Yeah, I've finally conceded. I was on a strict Die Hard isn't a Christmas movie. I was firmly on that side of the fence, and my fiance has just convinced me this year that it actually is a Christmas movie. But I'm still not convinced, but I still won't let him watch it on Christmas Day because I still think it's not Christmassy enough. But I'd say when I was younger, it used to be all like the ones like Elf was so good. You know, all like the really kind of big, I'm more like the sort of funny American ones, Home Alone, all ones like that. But I actually love horror movies as well. So I do a lot of like horror around Christmas, which probably isn't like watching Evil Dead on Christmas Eve probably isn't, you know, the most festive.
The new Nosferatu movie came out on Christmas this year.
Oh, hey, you see, there we go.
I'm very festive. You're not the only one.
It's perfect. So yeah, that's kind of, mine is a lot of horror, which is kind of weird.
It is really hilarious the way that certain traditions, like we have lasagna on Christmas. It's the only day of the year. Yeah, because we grew up with Italian heritage. So I make lasagna once a year, and it's for Christmas.
Wow. Oh my God, I didn't know that. So do you not do like the Christmas dinners and stuff then?
We do that too. So my parents, there was the Italian side and then the English side that immigrated to the US in the 1600s. And so that side of the family, we do the turkey and the veggies and like the stuffing and all of that stuff.
Oh, wow.
But then we also have my dad's heritage and the traditions from that side. And that's lasagna and anise cookies and, you know, limoncello and all of that stuff. So we do both.
Oh, that is the perfect combination. I wish I had some Italian heritage because it's my favorite food ever.
I will
And that
make you
literally sounds
lasagna if you come to Boston.
Please.
I'll make it
Please
for you.
do. I need some of your lasagna. I need the Mistress Carrie lasagna.
There is nothing better than having cold Christmas lasagna for breakfast the morning after Christmas.
Oh my God.
It is like the greatest.
That mixed with the bubble and squeak. We're going
to have to come up with a name for it because bubble and squeak is way better than whatever cold lasagna is.
Yeah, you need a silly name for it for sure.
Exactly.
Makes it taste better.
Yeah, exactly. Well, when I found out I was going to get a chance to talk to you, you're my first interview of the new year. So happy New Year. Thank you for
Happy New Year.
ringing in 2025 with me. And for a woman like myself that has worked in rock radio for as long as I have, I don't even like saying how long it's been, but I say it all the time on the show. I feel like women like me have been waiting for this moment in rock music for women for a really long time.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
Now,
I love that.
Yeah, and now it's here. And when I found out I was going to get the chance to talk to you, like when I talked to Nita Strauss or the ladies from The Warning or Plush or Lizzie Hale, that's a longtime friend of the show, there is this unbelievable energy in rock right now in general, but I kind of feel like women have kind of taken over.
Oh, definitely. There is so much girl power now, like in rock and in music in general, like in so many session musicians I know of females now as well, especially in like the bigger bands. And like generally people are like leaning more towards that kind of thing because I don't know, women just have a really cool energy as well. So it's just like it brings something kind of new to the genre. And I think it's, you know, I guess people are finally starting to kind of see that and appreciate it. And that means more women are getting into it because they're seeing it more as well. So it's definitely, it's taken over and it's about time.
Yeah. And I don't even bring it up because you're a woman. I bring it up more because I am, because I feel like I've been waiting for this moment for so long.
Yeah.
But there are so many women in rock, hard rock, and metal right now that I feel like the novelty isn't a novelty anymore. That it's not a big deal anymore. Do you feel that way?
Yeah, definitely. Like, I think it's getting that way. Like, I still think people would generally always refer to me as like a female guitarist, which can be like kind of annoying that it always has to have like the female put in front of it. It kind of like feels like maybe it kind of is limiting your abilities. Like, oh, we won't compare you to the guys, but for a girl, do you know what I mean?
But you're really good for a girl.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, okay. But I think that's slowly starting to change as well. Like I think people are just sort of still kind of getting used to it a little bit, but I think like the progress we've made recently is just incredible. And I think, you know, like you say with bands like The Warning and stuff coming up that are just such powerhouses and are taking over and into like mainstream as well and breaking into that aspect. I think it's really, really cool to see, really beautiful to see. And I think it's only going to get more and more as there's more exposure, you know, more girls are going to see that and think, oh, that's a career I could do, you know, whereas before they might not have. So yeah, it's amazing to be a part of the movement.
Well, that's what I wanted to talk to you about because first of all, I'll just put it out there because you and I just met today. I am so envious of your musical ability, songwriting ability, because I am so fortunate to be surrounded by so many talented musicians. Yet I have zero ability myself.
Have you ever tried? Do you play any instruments?
Yes. My clarinet playing in the high school marching band never amounted to anything.
Oh, damn. Clarinet is a staple instrument in rock and roll. We do need more clarinet solos. I hear people say that all the time.
I have joked wondering what it would sound like if you could find a way to mic a clarinet and run it through an effects rack and a Marshall stack.
Oh my God.
Like,
I fear it would be awful.
Could somebody figure that out for me? Because it would be epic.
Yeah. That's what Pantheon is missing is some clarinet solos.
But for you, I wanted to know when this started for you. Did you grow up in a musical family?
Honestly, no, not at all. Like none of my family were really musical. I had some extended family that kind of were, but I wasn't that close to them. But a lot of mine just came from, I kind of grew up when the internet was just kind of, becoming a big thing, and like music TV was like a massive thing, like MTV and stuff. So I did a lot of that. Like a big part of it was when I was really young, it was an episode of SpongeBob actually that really got me into music, which is very embarrassing and like honestly not rock and roll at all. But that sort of, it was when I think he was playing like a Twisted Sister song, I wanna rock, but it was I'm a goofy goober rock. And I was like, yes, oh my God, that's me. That's what I want to do.
Somewhere Dee Snider is cashing that royalty check.
Oh my God, yes. And yeah, so that kind of got me into it and got me started in it. And then I got really into sort of actually like the Jackass movies and their soundtracks are like very like, they have a lot of like Twisted Sister again as well. That was a band that I was really into early on. And CKY and stuff. I got really into that kind of metal stuff, and just from watching a lot of MTV shows as well, I really got into that kind of music with Tony Hawk Pro Skater as well. I really kind of got into guitar-based music and just saw kind of how fun it was and how it was like a lifestyle for people. It wasn't just particularly like a genre of music. It was like fashion, it was culture, it was just so much went into it. But saying that, I came from a very like kind of conservative, like small kind of posh town in England, so there really wasn't a music scene there at all. So I was very kind of isolated growing up with my interests and what I liked. I remember I got like suspended from school for wearing like a studded bracelet once. It was like it was very just, people were kind of scared of it. It was one of those things, but it didn't so I never really got into bands and stuff. I was always kind of on my own, and I think that's why I kind of turned to the internet and started uploading videos to YouTube and stuff, because that was kind of my outlet for it, because I didn't have anyone around me and none of my family played or anything. They were very encouraging. Like my dad loved like old school rock music and stuff.
Yeah, what was the soundtrack to your childhood? Because I have a theory about music that you get exposed to all of this stuff as a kid unwillingly.
Yeah.
Parents, uncles, aunts, older siblings. And then something changes when you hear something that you make the decision that you like.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
What was it that was on in the house when you were a kid?
So it was a mix of different stuff, because my mum was an aerobics instructor. So she would have like on all like the disco tracks, like, and she'd be dancing, like doing her aerobics around the kitchen. So that was always quite fun. My dad was really into like reggae as well growing up, which was cool. And then my dad started driving me to school instead of my mum, and he would have like a lot of like blues stuff on, so like Joe Bonamassa or like Santana and stuff like that I don't know, that I was just like, oh, this is really cool, because I was kind of doing a bit of guitar anyway, and I was like, oh wow, like that's what it can sound like if you're like, do you know what I mean?
If you're
that's the
good.
sort of music, if you're good at it, yeah, exactly. So I that really kind of shifted, and I started researching actually like guitarists themselves, and so I got into Joe Bonamassa and Rory Gallagher and kind of these blues artists, and then that kind of led me to like Joe Satriani, Steve Vai, and then I got a bit more into the metal side of things with like Dimebag and Zakk Wylde and stuff. So it was kind of like the progression from kind of blues to metal there, and I always had this kind of pop punk rock and roll side as well. It's a big genre of kind of stuff, anything with the guitar really. I kind of like
it. Comes up all the time. I call it the ping pong ball of rock and roll. Because of how it has gone back and forth over the ocean, that the blues in the United States inspired the British invasion and all of those amazing rock bands that came out of England, and all of the bands in the United States that they inspired. And then those bands are inspiring a whole generation of British music fans all over again.
Yeah, it's so true.
Yeah, it's
really cool to see. Yeah, it's really, really cool. And it's the same, like I studied that a lot with like the British influence on like punk rock was one of my dissertation topics at university. It was that, and then something about black metal, I can't remember. But yeah, I always thought it was really interesting how different countries and what's going on in like their culture and their political systems can have such an impact on the music that's created from that country. And then obviously that inspires others to start looking at their own things that are going on around them, and that inspires music. And I think it's really interesting how the different things that inspire creators and stuff.
So when's the first time you got your hands on a physical guitar?
I can never remember my exact age. I think I was probably about 9 years old or something, and I did a lesson of classical guitar, and I absolutely hated it. I was like, this is not it. This sucks. And I couldn't read music. I was like, this isn't it at all. So the next lesson, I literally just I think it was one of my uncles saying, it was the Yamaha Pacifica, my first guitar, my first like electric guitar, and I still have it, and it has like all this, I put all the stickers on so I knew where all the notes were and stuff, like, so I knew like how to play like the major scale and everything. And I took that into my classical guitar lesson. I was like, I'm playing this from now on, sorry. And he was surprisingly okay with it. And then I sort of just started doing that. It was very when I was in primary school and stuff, I was playing a lot. I mainly liked it because you could like get out of lessons to go and play, have a guitar lesson. So that was mainly why I enjoyed it. But then I sort of started really, really heavily getting into it. I'd say probably around secondary school, which I think is maybe middle school for you guys. I was about like 15 or so when I was like, actually, this could be like a viable career. Like this is actually really, really what I want to do with. And I started coming home and playing like 7 hours a night, like after school and stuff, and just really honing in on that craft.
What was the first song or riff that you played correctly? Because for musicians, it's been described to me that when you finally get it right, it's like hitting the perfect golf ball.
Yeah.
So what song was it? What riff was it that you played and went, oh my God, I did it right?
There's a few that stand out. One is Wild Thing. I think it's by the Trogs. The Wild Thing. That's just because it's 3 chords. It was like the first song I learned that I could actually like play all the way through. And I was like, oh my God, I'm a rock star. So that was good. Sweet Home Alabama as well. That was kind of the first riff. I feel like it's a lot of people's kind of first riff that they go to. And then my first kind of solo that I got all the way through was Stairway to Heaven. My dad said, if you can play this whole solo, I'll get you this guitar. I'll get you this new guitar that I wanted. And it was a PRS something. I can't remember what it was. But yeah, so I really like just spent so long trying to nail this solo. And when I finally got it down, he got me the guitar. So that was a really special one as well. I remember my first tapping lick too, the Eddie Van Halen tapping lick in Eruption. When I first nailed that, that was like such a cool moment for me. I would not stop playing it constantly. I still play it constantly. I'm still like, I can't believe I can do this.
Well, there are certain lines in the sand in the evolution of rock and roll. For a lot of musicians, seeing the Beatles on the Ed Sullivan Show in the United States completely changed the course of music in the States.
Yeah.
I mean, Ann and Nancy Wilson from Heart said they remember sitting on the floor at home watching it on television, and it changed everything for them because they were like, that's what we want to do. They said so many girls wanted to be with the Beatles. They were like, we wanted to be the Beatles.
Yeah.
And there's such a huge generation of artists that can pinpoint their inspiration to that moment.
Yeah.
But Eddie Van Halen is also a line in the sand for so many guitarists. There was life before Eddie, and then there was life after Eddie.
Definitely, yeah. I would 100% agree with that. Like it's because it was what no one had ever really heard before. Like, I guess when I was growing up, there was other artists that were doing kind of what he was doing. Like, I'm sort of maybe I was a bit too young or old. I was born too late to like experience the true, like when it first came out. But I can even now, and that's just a testament to how amazing it is. His technique is still so unique and no one can get it exactly like he could and get the feel exactly like he could. So I think that's why he's such a staple, is it's just stood the test of time and still inspires new guitarists today. Like they still kind of have that moment of before Eddie and after Eddie, even though there's people that do similar things, but he's still just so unique in everyone's eyes.
It's so funny because some of the guitarists you've already mentioned, guys like Satriani, Steve Vai, Nuno Bettencourt, have all said on this show the same thing about Eddie Van Halen. that they had the opportunity to take Eddie's guitar from Eddie with his strings, chords, cables, pedals, amps. And like Nuno Betancourt said on the show, I thought this is the one time I'm actually going to get to sound like Eddie, because he was standing on Eddie's stage with Eddie's stuff and he goes, and I sounded like me.
Yeah.
and Steve Vai said that Eddie went to his house and took Vai's guitar. And he was like, he had the audacity to sound like Eddie on my guitar.
How rude.
So it brings me to the question about tone, because every guitarist seems to be on this hunt for this signature tone. Where do you think a guitarist tone comes from?
I think that's a good question. I think for me, and I think probably for a lot of those guys as well, and kind of what you said kind of speaks true, is that it's not even so much from the guitar or the equipment, it's from your hands and from your fingers and how you do different things. Like my vibrato is completely different to like BB King's vibrato or something like that, you know? It's like the stylistic is so different, and you do develop your little nuances. You develop licks that you know inside out, so always sort of pop up in your playing in some way or another. Like everyone kind of develops these things that are so unique to them. And I think that's the sign of like a really successful guitarist, is when they can kind of pick up anything, you know, literally you could pick up some broken guitar off the street and start playing and it sounds like you. People will be like, you know, if Steve Vai probably picked up any old guitar, if it picked up BB King's guitar, he could sound like Steve Vai, even though it's, you know, on a 335 or whatever. So it's like, I think that's really where it comes from, is like your own expression of how you decide to form the licks, of how you know, just your little little nuances that you have that make your playing really specific.
Who were the women that you saw that taught you it was possible?
I think a big one for me was Orianthe in it was just after it was the This Is It documentary with Michael Jackson. We went to the cinema and saw that because my mum was a big Michael Jackson fan. So we went to the cinema and saw that. And that was kind of the first time I'd really seen like a woman that looked kind of similar to me as well. Like just absolutely kind of rocking out, playing the craziest solos, like on such a massive stage with a massive artist, and like just absolutely owning it. And she was almost the star of the show. Do you know what I mean? It was, and that was a really unique moment where it was just so special to see. And then I got really into her and started listening to her music, and yeah, her career has just been so inspiring, and the fact she's still just absolutely killing it, still playing live all the time, releasing incredible music. And I think she's just an absolutely massive inspiration for me.
When you are learning how to play the guitar, especially coming up in the era of the internet, and you start putting stuff up online.
Yeah.
For anybody that's never seen you, I'm going to state the blatantly obvious. You're a beautiful woman.
Oh, thanks.
And people are going to see a beautiful woman playing guitar, and you can almost guarantee, because the internet is filled with trolls and negativity, the backlash. You're going to get support, and then you're going to get the backlash. How were you, especially in the early days of your playing, able to navigate that? Because I remember in the early days of my career being on the radio, getting the calls in the studio of the negativity and the hate.
Oh, wow.
Because for some reason, and obviously, as we said before, it's getting better.
Yeah.
But it's like, did you feel like you had to be twice as good to gain the respect?
Yeah, definitely. Like, I think so, because I remember even before, when I was really young, going to I was having guitar lessons with this guy, Mike Hurst. He used to play with Dusty Springfield in the Springfields. He was sort of my mentor when I was like quite a bit younger. And he was sort of like, because you're a girl, you can't just be a good guitarist, you have to be the best guitarist. So I've really kind of, at the time, I was really kind of upset about it. I don't know why. I think I was really like, well, why does that make a difference? Do you know what I mean? Like, I should be able to do what I want. And I've always like struggled with like self-confidence of feeling like I was like the best at anything. So I think that really kind of put me off for a little bit. But now, especially now, I do kind of understand, because it's like you say, when you put yourself online, it's just the way of the internet, and like no one can, it happens to everyone that goes on. And at first, I remember my first big like hate wave, I guess it was when I released a shred version of Nirvana Smells Like Teen Spirit, which it is interesting. I think I think the thing for me was I really had good people around me, and I never really looked at the comments that much. Like, I try not to hold too much weight in the comments, but that one was difficult because it's when people started like messaging like your family and stuff. That's when I think it gets a bit too far, and that's when it can start to like kind of have an effect. But generally, like, I really just don't read the comments. And now I kind of think, a hate view is worth the same as a love view,
Well, I love that term, the hate wave.
Yeah. I know, let's coin that term.
Yeah. Scott Anderson from Finger 11 told me on the show this year that when the band really hit, Chad Kroeger from Nickelback told him, well, with that success, here comes the hate.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
It's kind of like that thing where you almost have to take the hate like a badge of honor because you've obviously
100%.
done something good.
Exactly. I always say to anyone, I'm like, when like you get your first hate comment, I'm like, you should go out and celebrate, because that means you're making it. That means you are having an effect on people.
Yeah.
So, and your name is getting wider known enough for you to get hate from random strangers.
You're getting noticed.
The random strangers
so
seeing it.
Obviously, with the love is going to come the hate.
Exactly. And people, especially in like this culture, people love to hate and kind of join like this mob of hate, which is horrible. But also you've kind of got you like kind of how Nickelback have done, you kind of utilize it a little bit,
Utilize it, galvanize it, make a documentary out of it, and own it.
Exactly. That's the thing. You've just got to own who you are. As long as you're staying true to yourself and that you enjoy doing what you're doing, you have good people around you, you believe in yourself, and just having that, you just separate out the real world from the fake world. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't matter what people in the fake world think. If you know to your core that you're doing what you love and you're really doing your best,
I've had several guitar players on the show describe the songwriting process in very different ways. For example, a guy like Slash or Jerry Cantrell will just kind of sit around and noodle and like record the noodling in case something comes through. Or like Jerry Cantrell says that he like has recorded riffs, like singing them into the message on his phone.
Yeah.
And have this toolbox of riffs and idea starters for songs. But then I've also had a guy like Zach Wilde that you mentioned earlier, mine that idea and then become myopically focused on it and write it until it's done. So the idea comes, he writes the song, he finishes the song, he puts it away, it's done, and on to the next. So how do you do it?
That's really interesting, actually. I didn't know he wrote like that. I'd say I'm probably more similar to the first category, like Slash and everyone. I think I definitely get like ideas for licks. I'll maybe like sing them or record them, or I'll try and record them as soon as possible on the computer. It really depends. Like, it changes each way. Like, sometimes if I'm really into it, I will kind of finish it off as much as I can. So my partner is a drummer. So if I've got a cool lick, I'll immediately get him, okay, can you write a drum riff to this lick? And he'll write the drums, and then I'll just sort of loop them for however long I want the song to be, 3 minutes. And then I'll just sort of play around with different ideas and different chord progressions and adding things over it. And sometimes I like it. Sometimes I'm like, this is sounding really cool. And then I'll sort of continue on and try and write it as full as I can. But other times I'm just like, actually, this sucks. But I'll still keep it and I'll like save it. And, I've had that before. I've returned back and I've been like, actually, I can like dig there's some bits out of this that I think are really cool, that I can kind of repurpose into something else. So I'm kind of a mixture of the two there, depending on the day, depending kind of how I feel about certain things. But the hardest part for me is just like starting a song, like getting that initial idea, I think.
Well, there's definitely the side of inspiration when it comes to riff and melody. And then there's the complete opposite skill set, in my opinion, which is lyric writing.
Yeah.
And I feel
I
like
have no skill there.
Yeah, I feel like they're two completely different sides of the brain.
Definitely. Like, I think it's lyric writing is so, you have to be so smart. Like, I really appreciate lyrics. That's the one thing, like, I can learn lyrics so quickly. I love, like, really delving into the meaning of lyrics. Like, I love analyzing lyrics, but I just cannot write them at all. I don't know whether it's I'm not deep enough. I don't know what it is, but it just doesn't, I can't figure out how people string them together, especially when people do it so quickly. I think it, like you say, it really is a completely different part of the brain. Like, I'm definitely more on the kind of rhythm side where, you know, I'll get even like sometimes with melodies, I struggle with a little bit more. Like, I'm a lot better at creating kind of like when I write, I'll create like a glorified kind of backing track first. And like have a full backing track before I even go in and write any melodies. Like, it's never really like a melody that comes to my head first, if you know what I mean. So it's a whole different talent. I don't know how people do it, but I wish I had it.
You have gotten to the point in your career that so many guitarists hope to achieve, which is having your own signature model guitar.
Yeah.
I have been told you learn more about wood in the design process of making a signature guitar. So what kind of wood are you now an expert in now that you have your own guitar?
That is so true. The amount of reading you do on like different like types and shades and so many different types of mahogany. You don't even know. Mine is black limber. So that's one that's kind of, it's tonally very similar to mahogany. So it's very, because I love like kind of warm round tone. Like, I sort of grew up playing like on a Gibson. So I really like that kind of tone. But I also wanted it to be really lightweight because I'm very weak. I have little arms. I can't like stand and hold like a super heavy Les Paul for like a 2-hour gig and be able to throw it around and run around. Like, that's just not really viable for me. So I wanted something that was quite a bit lighter than mahogany, but still had that kind of tonal characteristics. And that was kind of how I landed on black limber. And I went to the Kiesel factory. I tried out a bunch of different tonal woods, and that's kind of the one I liked. And then the neck is a walnut neck, which I found like your hand just kind of glides across super easily. And then some of them have like this one, you can see has a purple heart stripe in it. That's purely for looks. That's because it looks cool.
I appreciate the purple. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. It's for you specifically.
Thank you. Well, I bring it up because we were talking about the women that showed you it was possible. And when female guitarists, I talked to Nita Strauss about it, when you get a signature guitar like you're talking about, that it's built for you, a smaller frame that's lighter, so you can run around, you are then building a bridge to younger guitar players because for the first time, they can go and get a guitar that fits them.
Yeah, definitely. And that's so true, actually, because I had trouble before, you know, because we have boobs. There's sometimes like you get a guitar and like the place where it cuts like really hurts when it kind of leans into you. And that's the thing that like people wouldn't really think, you know, that if there's men making them, they wouldn't really think about that. But that's the thing like we need to think about. So that's why like the shape of mine, it like fits really nicely. Cradles my boob very well.
We learned so much about how guitars get designed on this show. William Duvall told me about his signature model and how it's based off of the shape of his wife's ass.
Oh, I love that. That's so fun.
And now you're telling me that your signature guitar is built around fitting under your boob.
Yes. It's meant to cradle my breast. But it's so comfy. It really does make such a difference. And it's especially because I spend a lot of time sitting down in front of the computer writing and stuff. So, you know, when you stand up, I guess it doesn't make as much of a difference. But that's why it needed to fit, like you say, it needed to fit my frame. So that's a really good point that like then girls can go out and get something that they know is going to fit them and you know, they're not going to have any issues with that.
Yeah, that they're not going and playing little kid guitars. It's an actual adult guitar that fits in their hand and fits on their body type.
Exactly. Yeah, 100%. And that's really cool. And it was cool with Kiesel because I was the first female signature artist for them. So that was like a really cool kind of like milestone for me to hit that I really wanted to hit. So that's really, really special for me that I got to work with them and kind of introduce them to the girliness of how guitars should be,
Well, it is something that, like, if you don't have boobs, you don't think about it. Like, earlier in my radio career, I got embedded as a journalist in Iraq and Afghanistan, and I had to get body armor.
Oh, wow.
And when they were talking about the, like, ballistic rifle plates, I was like, well, do you make them concaved for boobs?
Yeah.
And the guy laughed. He was like, what do you mean? And I was like, because when you're wearing these flat rifle plates, when you have boobs, they fit different than if you don't have boobs.
Yeah, definitely. That can like crush.
Yeah. So it was very uncomfortable. But it, when I asked him that, he was like, I've never even thought of that, like making body armor that would, like, why? And I was like, well, obviously you've never had boobs on your chest. Otherwise, you know exactly why I'm asking that question.
That's so interesting because I guess a lot of stuff is kind of made specifically by and for men in those sorts of fields. And like maybe we'll see with the shift of women kind of coming into, power in those places, like maybe things will start. They'll need new uniforms, new hot pink uniforms, for us girlies.
Well, I saw something on TV recently that there is a lot of money being put into research and development when it comes to automobile manufacturing and also like medical research, because crash tests were always done with male crash test dummies.
Oh my God, yeah.
And so like you were saying with the guitar strap, the seatbelt strap on a woman fits different than a man.
Yeah.
And when you're testing the effectiveness on medications or any of that stuff, if you're only testing men, those results are obviously not going to translate to women because our body chemistry is not the same.
Yeah, that's so true. Like we're built so differently that like it literally can't be the same.
They just did a study. Interesting. They just did a study like 3 months ago that they, up until last year, didn't test menstrual products with real blood.
Wait, really?
They were testing it with red saline.
Oh my God.
And it's like,
how does no one think of that? Like, how is no one like, do you think we should like try this with
with real blood to see if it really works?
Yeah, but they're just like, no, scary. Blood is scary.
Yeah, so like it really is interesting that how much research, whether it be the design of your guitar or seat belts or whatever it is, how much of that research was only done on men. And so obviously a guitar wouldn't sit on you the way that it would on a guy. And so that's why it is such, hearing how many female guitarists are getting their own guitars now and making them fit not only a woman's body, but also it can't be understated the statement it makes to young girls. That not only are they seeing you on TV, on the internet, whatever, playing guitars, but they're seeing a company like Keisel invest in you enough to give you your own guitar.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's really cool that like more companies are starting to do that and kind of really push that as well, and having like featured female artists for things and just incorporating and just making it way more equal, as it should be, really. And I think it's definitely a new wave of thing. And again, it just makes it so much more accessible for people to start, and they feel like, oh, I already feel included in this community,
It just makes you look at women like Joan Jett and Lita Ford and, Nancy Wilson and go, man, were they badasses.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
nobody did anything to help them.
Yeah, 100%. Like they struggled through probably all that adversity, they walked so we could run. It was really... It's incredible, like the sort of things they did and what they must have been through. I'd love to like sit down with them and like hear their stories,
Well, they're supposedly making a movie about the Wilson sisters.
Good, they should. That would be so
told
good.
Me on the show. I would love to see that movie.
Yeah, they definitely should. That would be amazing.
Yeah. When it comes to breaking, obviously the internet is such a huge and powerful tool. And for a guitarist to not only break on the internet, but then to find yourself on stage with someone that gets talked about as much as Machine Gun Kelly does.
Yeah, he likes to make the headlines.
I mean, what a kind of a way to bust through the door and be like, I'm here, bitches.
Yeah. It was really cool. And like, honestly, I'm really grateful to MGK for kind of giving me that chance as well, because it kind of was a little bit of a risk for them. You know, I'd never been in like a big touring band before, you know, and I lived in a whole different country. They had to go through the process of getting me a visa and stuff. Like, it was a big investment and risk for them to have me, but they like obviously just believed in me enough. And like, I didn't even really audition. It was very much just, I sent over a few videos of me playing live and stuff, and that was kind of it. I had one FaceTime with them and they were like, yeah, cool. So it was, I'm so grateful that they gave me that opportunity and that they were like looking in those areas, you know, for something new and something unique. And I think it was cool. Like, I had a lot of people say like, you were the missing piece of the band. Like, they were already a great live band, but like, you were the missing piece. And that means so much to me, that I can bring something new and cool and unique to an already very well established, very talented live band, you know, especially a band that has a lot of young female listeners, and that they can. So I think it's cool that he wanted to kind of demonstrate that and show that on stage for his audience. I think it's a really powerful move from him, you know. So, and I'm very honored to be the one to do it, and it's been an incredible experience.
As a person's career grows, there are those times where you kind of get stopped in your tracks and you become aware of the room you're in. So what was one of those moments for you where you looked around the room and went, how the hell did I get here?
There's been way too many of those moments recently. I'd say one of the crazier ones was when I saw my mum like twerking on Drake, pretty much. It's one of the crazier moments where I was like, oh my God.
I think that's the first time anyone on my show has ever said their mom twerked on Drake.
It was so funny. It was just like, they were like, come into Kel's dressing room, and like Drake was there and like The Weeknd was there, and my mum was just like dancing it up in the middle of the circle. And
your dad's like, oh my God, I can't take her anywhere.
Literally, my dad was like in the corner with a beer, like just letting her do his thing.
There's got to be a moment, because you said your parents were really supportive. As a dad, to see his daughter kind of achieve the things that you're achieving, what was a moment that you noticed your dad kind of getting stopped in his tracks? Besides your mom twerking on Drake, obviously.
Besides that, I think my dad's like a tricky one, because he's very hard to impress. And he's very like scientific. So he was very supportive of music, but I know he would have ideally loved for me to be like a scientist or something like that. But he's always loved music, and I think a big one for him was like recently I did something with Rory Gallagher's family. They did like an auction in his memory of auctioning off his guitars, and I joined. I was part of the documentary, and my dad is just a massive Rory Gallagher fan. It's like one of his favorite artists ever, and it was one that we really bonded over growing up. So I think me being involved in that was like a really cool thing for my dad to see, be like, oh my God, that's my daughter on the Rory Gallagher. Like, you know what I mean? I think that was really cool. Also, like, just I think he loves just seeing all like the magazines. Like, whenever I'm in a magazine, he'll like buy like so many of them. He'll show them to the people at his rowing club and stuff, you know. People who really don't care at all, but
everyone else
but, like,
is talking
it's very
about,
sweet.
oh, my kid, the cardiologist or whatever. And he's like, yeah, but look at this.
Look at this.
Check out my daughter's signature guitar.
Yeah, exactly. And like, he'll show them all the videos, send them to his friends and stuff. And I think he's really, really proud. And I think that's really sweet, because that's, part of what inspired me to do, like, I originally wrote Delusions, which was my very first like instrumental EP when I was younger. I originally was writing it purely as a Christmas present for my mum and dad. Like, it wasn't even really meant to go online, but then it just sort of became this bigger thing as I was writing it. I was like, actually, I kind of want to release it. But it all started as just an idea, because I wanted to give, mum and dad like the gift of like, be like, hey, look, I made something, to kind of like make them proud. So I think, every kid wants to make their parents proud. So it's really cool that I've kind of got to this place where I feel like, I don't know, they are really proud of me.
Speaking of gift giving, we're coming out of the holiday season. What's the Christmas gift you remember as a kid that you were like, oh my God, best Christmas ever?
Oh, a cotton candy machine. I know I should say something like, a guitar or an amp. Hell no, it was this cotton candy machine, and I ate so much cotton candy that day. It did break the next day, but I think I overused it, but it was incredible.
You're getting ready to hit another milestone in your career because you have scheduled your first U.S. show.
Yeah, we're so excited. I've been wanting to, obviously I've played the US before with MGK, but so much of my audience, my solo audience is in the US, and I'm so inspired by US music and US guitarists. So I think it's only kind of right that that one of my first shows I play, and I think we're doing it at the Whickey A Go Go in Los Angeles, and it's just such a staple in rock and roll history, being on Sunset Strip and stuff. I feel so fortunate that my first US show gets to be somewhere as iconic as that. It really is amazing. I feel like I'm following it. Got big shoes to fill, but I think it's going to be an incredible night.
So you bang down the door of the US and you play the Whickey, which, is the dream of every up and coming rock star.
Yeah,
what
for
does
sure.
2025 have in store for you? What are the plans?
So I think we're definitely focusing a lot more on our solo music. So it would be nice to start writing again properly, and getting into that, doing a few more collabs with different people as well would be great. Actually in person, because when we did the last Imposter Syndrome album, it was all over COVID, so it was all online, So it'd be nice to get actually into the studio with some people and see what cool stuff that inspires. And we're just really just trying to push our live stuff. We've wanted to take the Sophie Lloyd experience live for so long, and it's always been a bit of a thing. I suffer from quite bad performance anxiety and imposter syndrome when it comes to my own music, so it was always I kind of put off a little bit, just because I was I don't know, I think I was just kind of nervous, or I didn't know how people would take it or anything. So, and then when we sold out the Underworld, my first show, that sort of really made me think, oh wow, there is actually a market for it. People want to see me, because when you see numbers on a screen, it doesn't really, translate to real people, I guess. Pardon me, in your head. So so we're definitely going to be hitting the live scene, doing so many cool shows, just upping our game with everything. We've got so many cool ideas. We're rehearsing all the time of how to make these shows just absolutely a rock and roll fiesta. It's going to be really, really cool. So very, very exciting. And then just still carrying on with YouTube and everything. That's what I love doing, is my shred versions. I think it might be cool to even take the shred versions live as well. Maybe join forces with a DJ, a rock DJ or something, and make that a live experience. I think that could be a really, really cool thing too. So we've got lots of ideas. I'm very excited for 2025.
You spent a lot of time on the road with MGK, and being from England, I'm sure that there were perceptions of the United States. And as you're touring around, the touring experience on the bus, the truck stops in the middle of the night, what's the craziest thing you bought while you were on tour that you brought back on the bus, or something you just saw and you were like, only in America? I can't believe this.
America is so wild. Honestly, we would have so much fun at the truck stops at 3 a.m. We would specifically wake up just to go to these truck stops. We'd buy full high vis suits and just be messing around in the parking lot. It was just, we also had a cat on tour with us the first year we went out. So for the Mainstream Sellout tour, we had Kels's cat with us, Whiskey. So we had these we would just buy him the craziest cat towers and stuff, and just so many cat toys, and our bus was just full of that. It was honestly some of my favorite experiences is just walking around Walmart in middle America, in the middle of nowhere, and just the craziest people you see there. It's people are walking around in flip-flops and a snorkel mask in 108 degrees, and you're where have you been?
Peopleofwalmart.com is one of the most hilarious websites. It's why the internet was invented. That and porn.
It's incredible. Yeah. It's literally incredible to it's so fun. You guys you do everything bigger and better. It's like Disneyland. The whole of America is like Disneyland for us.
I follow creators on TikTok, and so many of them are British, and all the content they make is just culture shock stuff of being dropped somewhere in the United States and going, what the hell is this? What the hell am I doing?
That's the thing, because we speak different. we speak the same language, but literally the culture is so different. I almost had to learn a whole other language as well. And like a lot of the guys are from like Cleveland, they're like from the streets and stuff. So I kind of had to get familiar with like gangster slang and just
I'm
like
sure
learn
you
how
fit right in.
this little posh girl from Henley on Thames with. But honestly, it was just, I don't know, it's so cool to see all those different cultures, but it's incredible how different it is. Like it's two completely different lifestyles and ways of life, you know, and they say the same whenever they come over here. They're like, what is with all of this British stuff? This is so weird. Why are people eating sandwiches? Why is there tea time? What's going on?
The mushy peas got me. I was like, what are we doing? What is happening with mushy peas? I don't get it.
To be fair, yeah, I kind of agree with you on that. It kind of just seems like someone chewed them up and spat them back out into a bowl.
Yeah, or, you know, it's like what mama birds do. It's like, hold on, let me get this and chew it up and then just spit it in your mouth for you. Yeah. Like, why am I doing this?
Clearly we're into some weird things over here, you know?
Yeah, although you guys do have exceptional Indian food.
Oh, yeah, we do curry so well. My personal favorite, like I love baked beans, like a full English breakfast. That in America, you guys don't really have baked beans, so I'll literally bring my own Heinz baked beans cans and just eat them cold on tour.
Well, we have them, but we don't eat that. That's another thing that I don't get. Like, we in America eat baked beans with like hot dogs. It's not a breakfast food.
It is. It's so good. It tastes so good with breakfast. Try it.
I flew to Africa once, and I flew Virgin, and I flew through Heathrow, and I fell asleep in Boston. I got on the plane, took off from Boston, fell asleep, woke up, and they were delivering the proper English breakfast, which I had never had before. And I'm like, why are you bringing me baked beans, and where are the hot dogs? And the British flight attendant was like, what are you talking about?
That's so funny. I will say the plain baked beans probably aren't the best baked beans to give you that sense of Britishness. But also, that's incredible that they delivered you a full English breakfast. I need to fly with Virgin from now on if that's what they're going to do.
This was years ago, and it had, you know, the sausages and like the whole thing. But you're telling me you're eating them cold out of the can? That is gangster.
Oh yeah,
that is savage.
Yeah. I have a problem though. I'm so obsessed with them. It's actually a bit dangerous. So I wouldn't recommend it. But
well, I'm so excited that I got to meet you, and I found out that you were playing your first U.S. solo show. Obviously, I knew who you were from the internet and playing with Machine Gun Kelly, but the idea that you are now taking your solo career and growing it here. I love being able to introduce people to new artists like yourself. So I was so excited you agreed to come on the show. So I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. Like, you're such a legend in this community as well. So yeah, it's such an honor to be on your show. And thank you so much for asking me.
Well, hopefully in 2025, you'll have a full-blown tour, and then I can actually come and see you play in person.
Yeah, that would be incredible. Definitely.
Well,
that's
Happy
the goal,
New Year.
Sure.
Thank you for being the first show of 2025.
I'm so honored. Happy New Year, everyone. I hope everyone has an amazing year.
There she is, guitarist Sophie Lloyd. You can check out her videos and her shreddy versions of some of your favorite rock songs on her official YouTube channel. All of Sophie Lloyd's links are in the show notes of this episode. You'll also find all the Mistress Carrie links and this episode's corresponding playlist. I make a playlist for every full-length episode of the Mistress Carrie podcast that features all of my guest music and all the artists and songs that we referenced in the interview. If you liked what you heard, don't forget to like, follow, share, and subscribe to the Mistress Carrie podcast. New full-length episodes come out every Wednesday, plus every weekday you get the sit rep. The Situation Report runs down all your rock news, music headlines, and entertainment updates in about 5 minutes. And you never know when we're going to release a bonus episode. Join me live every Tuesday night at 8:30 Eastern for my weekly streaming video show, Cocktails in the War Room. It's available on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitch. And of course, you can always find me on the radio. Get the links and all the details to all of that and more at mistresscarrie.com. The Mistress Carrie podcast, a proud member of the Pantheon Podcast Network.